Hi, everyone. Thank you for connecting with our Facebook Live session for the School of STEM and Health Professions. We're going to give it another minute for everyone to connect, but we look forward to talking with you in just a moment.
So I take it with these controls down here at the bottom, anybody can highlight and stuff. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Chelsea. You're the director.
We'll go ahead and start in just a second. Give a couple more people time to join us. Looks like we got 6 viewers so far. Hi, everyone. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live session. In our session tonight, we'll be meeting with Assistant Professor for Lab Sciences, Jerry Zonetti, and a current student in our School of STEM and Health Professions, Madison.
And tonight we're here to answer your questions live, whether those questions are about admissions or if they're about our STEM and health professions programs. We're here to help you with all of those questions and provide you with some additional information. But before we get right into it, let's start with just some introductions. So I'm actually going to pass it back to Chelsea now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea Mara, and I'm the Director of Admissions here at Jefferson. I'm also an alumni, graduated in 2012, so I'm really excited to be here with you all to talk a little bit about all JCC has to offer. And I'll throw it over to Jerry.
I'm Jerry Zonetti. I'm one of the instructors here, one of many that you will be encountering or dealing with if you decided to go the STEM route. Even if you didn't, which it happens, some people find STEM a little difficult, but you'd end up having me probably as your instructor as I deal with most entry-level and first semester science students.
All right, I'll go next. So my name is Logan Labiendo. I'm our education coordinator for the admissions office. I also graduated from JCC in 2018. I was a sport management major, but I actually did have Assistant Professor Zonetti as well in one of my human biology courses. So a lot of students take those courses, which we'll get into as well too, but I'm happy to be here. I also would like to turn it over to introduce our student for this evening, Madison.
Hi, everybody. My name is Madison Wall. I'm majoring in natural sciences here at Jefferson. I will be graduating in May of this year.
Awesome. So we will get right started. And if anybody's watching right now and they have any questions, please feel free to leave those comments right on Facebook for us. We'll do our best to address them. Post when you post them. And if we don't get to them right away, don't be discouraged. We do have some time for question and answers at the end as well. And we'll just ask some questions to Madison to get started first. So the first question we have for you, Madison, is why did you choose to attend Jefferson?
I chose Jefferson because it's really close to my house and my family. Like, I love being close to family. It's also really cost effective. So I felt like it was the best option for me as soon as I got out of high school, so I could still be closer to home. And since I did graduate during COVID from high school, I felt like I wasn't ready to leave my home yet. I wasn't ready to leave family. So it was just really easy for me to transition from being in quarantine to here because it's so close. But it's also really cost effective. Yeah, I love it here.
Great. We're happy to hear that. And those are great reasons to attend JCC and community colleges as well, like you said, because we are pretty low cost compared to some other schools. So I'm glad you've been able to take advantage of that as well. And just to go along with that, what courses are you currently taking for the program that you're in?
So for natural sciences, I'm taking organic chemistry, which is a directed study this semester. I'm taking microbiology. I'm taking abnormal psychology. And in April, I will be taking a hiking course.
Wonderful. And then it doesn't have to be class related, but what is your favorite thing or your favorite part about being a student in the School of STEM and Health Professions?
I really love how hands-on it is. I really enjoy doing labs here. I learn so much doing different labs. Everybody's so friendly. Everybody's willing to help whenever they can. Even if it's not my professor, I can still go up to a professor that I know teaches the subject that I'm taking. Say like chemistry, I can go ask somebody that teaches chemistry and say, hey, can you help me with this, please? If my professor isn't available to answer my question.
That's great. And I know you mentioned too, everybody being willing to help. And I noticed that as well too when I was a student here. We do have pretty small class sizes. So usually we have a 17-to-1 student to faculty ratio. Which just means usually on the first day of your classes, you can expect to have about 16 other students in there with you. It may vary for some lab courses. If you have partners and things like that, they may be a little larger, or you may have smaller classes, but your professors will know who you are, which is a good thing, hopefully. And you can get that really individualized help and attention while you're in your classes. So I'm glad that you've experienced that as well. The last question I have for you for the time being, unless anybody on Facebook has some questions for you as well. Are you involved in any extracurricular activities or any clubs or any jobs on campus?
Yeah, so on campus, I'm what's called a work study. So I work here in the stock rooms and I help I help set up lab carts. I help set up different kind of chemicals. So I work in both chemistry and biology stock rooms.
That's great. I'm glad you were able to take advantage of the federal work study too, like you mentioned. So we do have jobs all over campus. Sometimes students like Madison choose to work right in the specific department that they're part of. We also have students that work in admissions or athletics and things like that. So we're very happy to have you not only here tonight with us, Madison, but also as a student at JCC. You're a very well-rounded, good example of how to get involved at Jefferson. And really start those first 2 years of your education. So thank you again for being here. It doesn't look like we have too many questions right now from Facebook, but if anybody does have questions, please feel free to leave those comments for us. And we can address them as well, whether they're for Madison or for Chelsea and I, or for Assistant Professor Zolanetti, which we'll talk to next. So my first question for Jerry, if you're ready, what is unique about the STEM and health professions programs that are offered at JCC?
Well, when people think of two-year colleges, a lot of times they think of a scenario where the coursework is somehow, lessened or lowered because of the status. But there's no question, just by virtue of the fact that when our courses transfer, I can think of several that transfer actually higher in some four-year colleges. And what I try to remind my students is, your first 2 years here, at least, you're not going to have courses that are just, for want of a better expression, fluff courses. These are going to have the tools to prepare you to go on to those next higher levels if you're a STEM student, and you'll obviously need those tools. You can't, conquer those higher science courses without that foundation, and you'll get it here. You couldn't get a better 2-year start in STEM at Harvard. It's not going to be any better than it would be here at JCC. And that's from, knowing these courses since the mid 90s when I was a student here.
And I know you just mentioned transfer credits as well and things like that. Do you see a lot of students in these STEM programs that transfer onto a four-year school? Do they go into the workforce? What does that kind of look like moving forward in their education or in their careers?
So in the amount of advisees we have, and which gives us a wide variety of, student perspective, like I'm thinking of going into this, I'm thinking of going into that. It's probably split almost 50-50. 50% want to graduate, get the 2-year natural sciences degree because you have a better chance of being picked. These last couple of years have been a little odd, but in most years, many programs are very competitive. If they see you have an actual degree in science, you have a better shot than somebody who just got the prereqs and they're transferring. On the other hand, there are many situations where you might want to get just the prereqs done because we don't have a particular program, but the program might be located elsewhere. And of course, it's definitely more cost effective to get your prereqs and first 2-year courses down here and then transfer to the program. And again, having some of the prereqs done definitely gives you a better chance of getting accepted into a program from somebody who's going out of high school into, say, a 4-year school with a program that they want and they have nothing but their high school transcript. You having a collegiate transcript will give you an edge.
And just to kind of do a follow-up question for that one, whether the students decide to transfer to a 4-year school or if they just jump right into their careers, just in general, what kind of careers are available for students who decide to pursue a STEM field or a health professions major?
So there is such a huge variety. I actually went online today and I found a list of STEM careers kind of thing. And depending, again, what you're choosing to do, we have programs here like the Zoo Tech program. If you're, very interested in animals and the care of animals, obviously there's been a big progression in animal care, and it's changed quite a bit over the last 20 or 30 years. So zoo care and other sanctuaries need qualified people. And we have a program here where you would complete it all here and you'd be ready, to move right into a job or a position anywhere in the country. Obviously, our nursing program here is very highly rated. Matter of fact, they just got an accolade for having the highest percent pass the national boards for nursing. And they've always been at least number 2 or number 3. And, not to plug our college, but we had the highest completion rate in New York State. We were in the top 3 for the last 10 years. So even our nursing program will get you ready. You can go right out there, right from here itself. But many programs, obviously, in the medical field require further education. So when you're talking about physical therapy, dentistry, audiology, all these different kinds of programs that require these first 2 years, which you can get here or any school for that matter, but obviously here you'd have an advantage. You'd still have to transfer and finish your education.
Gotcha. I'm glad you mentioned too the nursing program and the zoo technology program we have, because I know we have one of the only zoo technology programs in the state,
Yeah.
I believe, associate degree level. And our nursing program is always very popular. It's one of our most competitive programs. So we see a lot of students applying for that program as well. We also have a virtual and an in-person nursing information session that's coming up on Monday, April 25th. So if anybody is watching this right now or watching it later once it's on Facebook as well and you're interested in nursing, we do have another seminar as well that's going to be completely focused on the admissions process for that program and the courses and things like that. And you'll meet some faculty members. So not to talk too much about that part, but we are offering that as well. And then, Jerry, the next question we have for you is what type of labs or experiments or things like that you do within your specific courses?
When it comes to STEM courses themselves, worldwide, there is a standard that has to be kept. And especially when you're talking about intro level as well, because obviously your first semester, you're going to take at least 1 lab science. By your second semester, you'll be taking usually 2 lab sciences and a math. Okay, and that's typical for a STEM student. And I'm not saying it is not difficult, but again, this is, if you want to be in STEM, this is what you have to do. This is what we all did. So it starts off in usually every one of them, even a majors bio, you'll do some basic biochemistry in the lab. You'll be studying the organic molecules that make life possible. Anything from there to, say, in our human biology course, you'll be doing some anatomy. You'll have to understand the anatomical parts of the human from every system. Okay, and of course we have, the latest models, obviously, and life-size models that we use for that. In chemistry, obviously, you'd be studying the basic reactions that are very closely associated to industry, because I'm sure many of you would want to work in the private industry, which can be very lucrative. And we know how difficult chemistry is, but there is a set of standard reactions that obviously have to be understood and known. And even when it comes to engineering fields. So if you're interested in some kind of electrical engineering or mechanical engineering, the physics courses you'd be taking will cover those and give you those basic, labs that obviously cover those concepts. And of course, we have a wide variety of biology starter courses, and that's what they're there for. When you get to college, it's not like taking New York State Living Environment, which covers literally everything in the school year in just very small chunks. When you get to the college level, it's going to be a biology that does have some specificity. So human biology or survey of cell biology, where we study just the cellular structures, and the experiments would be associated with how a cell operates, osmosis, diffusion, tonicity, this kind of scenario. We also have vertebrate classes where you have to study the anatomical parts of a variety of animals. So it does cover quite a bit. There's a huge variety of experimentation, including some courses which you will do dissections in.
I just want to go back to one thing that you mentioned too about kind of the difference between those high school classes that you would take and how the college ones are a bit more specific. If somebody in high school right now is interested in potentially joining one of these fields once they get to college or one of these majors, what type of classes should they be taking now in high school to really prepare themselves to take that next step into a STEM field in college?
Yes, what we're finding, because obviously we study our own data and we obviously are trying to figure out what to tell people still in high school is the easiest path. And number one is getting your chemistry, high school chemistry done. That will give you a prereq to actually get into a majors bio or chem course or physics without having to take an intro course. Because again, without that basic knowledge, they know you're not going to be successful in a majors STEM course. So in other words, the first bio majors course for you would be Bio 131. But if you don't have any high school chemistry, you won't qualify, and you'll have to go into either Bio 111, Bio 106, Bio 112, Bio 105, which is an intro course to give you some of that basic chemistry that would help you understand how that works in biology. And that's kind of a good strategy for advising that we followed. And just recently, I can think of an example that, students tell me about other schools they've been to. And one school in particular, the student didn't have their high school chem done, and they were just drowning in their first bio class without that basic chemistry knowledge. So get your chemistry done. Definitely try to get through trig and calc. Now, in essence, high school calc is really pre-calc for here. But even if you did relatively good, say you got a C in your calc course there, that'll qualify you to start immediately on your math credits here. So what we're finding is one of the biggest problems, I think, for students to not graduate on time is they have to, and it happened to me, 30 years ago, I didn't have high school chem. I didn't have the higher math. So I had to spend a whole year getting all those done before I was able to move into my college level courses. So it's good if you get your, higher math done, chemistry done. Obviously, if you could take AP Bio, if you're going into the biological fields, that would be a plus. And we actually give credit, a certain amount of credit for AP courses. So it's best those three, the math, the bio, and the chem, try to get those done as high a level as you can. And I'm sorry, but it takes a lot of dedication to do that, because the STEM fields are getting a little more complicated now, especially with the introduction of the computer sciences into all of these mainstream healthcare fields, et cetera. Even in surveying, I have a student right now that's getting into the engineering side of surveying, and it has definitely changed dramatically. So that student's also going to be taking, at least one lab science course, higher math courses for land surveying. So there's a wide variety, but get those core classes done.
I think that was really great advice for maybe our prospective students that are still in high school and they're not quite sure what to take. And like you mentioned, we do give credit for AP scores as well. So if you're in AP classes, all you would have to do is send in your official scores or your official transcripts, and we'll evaluate those. And if you score highly enough, we can award you credit for that as well, whether that's a biology course or if it's an English AP course that you took, we'll evaluate any incoming credit that you have as well. So I'm glad that you touched on that. Last question I have for you as of right now. Do we have any resources or opportunity programs that are specific to our students that are studying in the School of STEM and Health Professions?
The one that comes to mind immediately is CSTEP, so the Collegiate Science and Technology Entry Program. This definitely helps students who are in two groups that definitely have found roadblocks or challenges in the past. So if you're a minority student or if you're economically challenged, it's essentially scholarship opportunities, and it's done right through our school. And all you have to do is apply and see if you qualify. And you get a lot of help during the year with all kinds of scenarios. Textbooks, you can get lend textbooks so you don't have to buy certain textbooks. You get, I think there's your own private computer lab, research and internships that don't get offered to the average student, academic and career and personnel counseling, financial assistance. So there's a whole host of things that CSTEP can do. Madison mentioned work study. You can make a little extra money, get exposed to a professional environment, at a higher institution, which is extremely handy if you're going into a professional field. Our honors program, if you happen to have high enough grades, I think it's actually just, you got to maintain to enter, I think it's a 2.0, but you got to maintain a 3.5. So it is expecting, obviously a higher class of work, ethic kind of thing. But I'll tell you, a lot of students tell me about just going online now and applying for as many scholarships as you can. There's plenty of opportunities now that are, it's basically at the federal level. They're offering money for students that qualify. You definitely have to have a good high school transcript. But going into the STEM fields, and especially women, there's a huge amount of opportunity for women that are finding the STEM field an area of interest to actually pursue a career. And it doesn't take much more than a Google search to actually start finding those opportunities.
That's great, Jerry. And we do, like you mentioned as well, we just opened our scholarship application on our website as well too. So if you are a current student, you can now apply for scholarships starting for the fall 2022 semester. Or if you're an incoming freshman, you can also apply for those scholarships as well. So that's a great resource that we have at JCC, but there's also all sorts of outside scholarships that students could qualify for. They're maybe more specific to the field of STEM and health professions, like you mentioned. And that's really helpful as well to our students that we have all of those resources through CSTEP, or if they're in work study like Madison is, and they're gaining that hands-on experience while they're a student. There's lots of different opportunities to get involved at Jefferson as well. So thank you, Jerry, for being here. That's all the questions I have for you at the moment. We will wait and stay on here for a few minutes as well. If anybody has any questions in the chat, now is a great time to leave us those questions, and we can get to them, whether they're STEM related, if they're for a specific person on here, or if they're just general questions. We're happy to field any of those and help out.
Thanks, Logan. And thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. I think this was a great session, great opportunity for anybody who's thinking about going into the STEM or health professions and getting ready to start here right at Jefferson. While we're waiting for some of the questions to come in, I just wanted to also mention our open house, which is coming up. So if you're interested in coming to campus, taking a visit, meeting with our faculty members, getting to ask some more of those questions, hearing from Logan, myself, financial aid, so many different things that we'll have on campus that day. That's going to be on April 8th. And you can register for our open house right online at sunyjefferson.edu. So we hope to be able to see you there and be able to answer some more of your questions.
You want to see a real brain, a human brain?
Absolutely.
Nice or what?
It's beautiful. Anybody who's watching too will notice that Madison is also in one of our labs. So she's got some materials behind her that you can see. So if you're coming to class and you're going to be participating in lab sciences, this is kind of some of the things that you'll be able to see when you're in class.
So right now I'm in the A&P lab, and I have skeletons behind me. I have skulls here. Across the room I have muscles of the arms and legs and neurons and hands and feet. Today I had work, and I actually had to fill jars of well, not live anymore. I had to fill jars of specimens with more preserving material. So that was a lot of fun. So I messed around with preserved baby deer and a
Fetal pig?
fetus pig. Fetal pig, yeah.
Oh, fetal
So
rat,
it's a lot of
too.
fun. I get to experience a lot of different things. Oh, and a rat, yeah. But it's a lot of fun working in the stock rooms. I have many good connections, and it looks really good on my transcript. And I just get to become more closer with professors that I don't have classes with. So Jerry, I actually don't have classes with, but Jerry and I are very nice together.
Well, and that's the thing. You get a chance, right out of high school to kind of learn how a professional relationship works. It's not your average everyday on the street kind of relationship, and you might not have experienced that in high school. So if you do come here, you do get that opportunity with the work study program.
That's great. And we actually do have one question in the chat, so I'm going to pop it up on the screen. So the question is from Robin. It says, how can I meet an admissions person if I have a question? Logan, do you want to take that one?
I sure can. So if you'd like to meet with somebody in admissions, if you have questions, if you're not sure how to apply to the college or how to get started, you can meet with either Chelsea or I. We do individual one-on-one appointments. So you can come in by yourself, or we have them over the phone or over Zoom. And you can bring your parents or other family members or things like that with you as well. If you bring in your transcripts as well, we can help you get those attached to your application. But even if you don't have your transcripts or anything yet, you can request those one-on-one admissions appointments right on our website at sunyjefferson.edu. If you click right on the admissions tab, you can schedule a one-on-one meeting, or you can stop right into the office and book those appointments, or you can give our office a call as well. And I believe we'll put our phone number on at the end. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if not, we can give that information as well.
Thanks, Logan. All right. Well, go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Yeah. Also, if anybody's interested in taking a campus tour, that's on the same admissions tab right on our website. So if you're interested in touring, it'll actually ask you right on that form if you'd like to meet with an admissions counselor at the same time. That way you can come to campus, you can meet with admissions, take the campus tour. Sometimes you can request to meet with athletics coaches if you're interested in playing a sport. Or even we've had faculty members as well from specific programs meet with students in those visits. So that's a great opportunity that we have if you're interested in attending Jefferson as well.
All right. And as Logan said, here's our email and our phone number right on the screen. So if you do want to meet with someone from admissions, have additional questions that you want to ask, or just interested in getting started, please send us an email or give us a call. We're happy to help you. Logan and I have meetings every day with students, so we look forward to meeting with you all. And if there's no other questions in the chat, we're going to close out for now. But this is just for now. Logan and I will be back tomorrow. We'll all be back tomorrow. If you need anything from us, just give us a call. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.